Well, hello again, everyone. I'm Richard Sher, and it's time to square off. This is special today as we talk exclusively with Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates. Ivan, great to have you back on Square Off.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Richard. How have you been?
Been pretty good. Got a little frog in my throat today, but I'll make it. How about you? How have you been?
Pretty good as well. No complaints. This fall I've become a soccer dad on another level, but that would probably be my only complaint, but I have none really at all.
Great. You look great.
Thank you. You
Well,
too.
as you know, Ivan, National Guard and active duty troops have been dispatched to several Democratic-run U.S. cities. President Trump says it's to crack down on the violence and crime in Portland, Oregon, Memphis, Washington, Los Angeles, and Chicago. How do you feel about what's going on with the troops?
Well, look, I do recognize the president has a great deal of power. President makes those decisions. That's something that I think every state has to make the decision what they want, what they don't want. As a citizen, though, because I'm not, as the state's attorney, I'm really not going to really discuss it. From the standpoint, if they come here to Baltimore, I would have to prosecute any and all cases, and I don't want to have any conflicts or anything like that. But in terms of the other jurisdictions, you know, I, I don't necessarily like that. And the reason I don't like it is because I think states have an opportunity and they should have their ability to control what they want. If they need the help, they need the support, then yeah, they can go ahead and ask the federal government for that. But for the federal government to go ahead and just decide, oh, we decided you need the support and need the help and we're going to do this, I think it needs to be a different type of emergency situation. It's not something that I am necessarily for, but I do recognize that if it falls in my lap, I have to deal with it, in which I will.
Okay. Meaning what? Like what situation would you have to get involved
I
with?
mean, God, if President Trump ever sent the troops to Baltimore, then I would have to deal with that in terms of they're here, they're making arrests, they're making cases. My office then would have to prosecute them if they were legal constitutional arrest. And so, from that standpoint, I would have to deal with it if it happened. However, I let the governor, I let the mayor, they're the ones who've been speaking on that issue. They're the ones who've been out front with that issue. I let them speak on that behalf.
You know that none of these cities asked for the troops. Trump, as you read, blasted Baltimore a few weeks ago, says he'll walk with Governor Wes Moore through the streets of Baltimore when the murders and crimes are under control. What did you think about that?
Well, look, no one likes to be attacked like that. I think when you look to see where we've come, for me, I'm the guy who believes the glass is half full instead of half empty. Look, I think when we see where we were in 20, 21, 22, I understand 300, 345, 360 murders. Where we are today is about 102 murders. It's still 102 too many, but it's going and headed in the right direction. Without a doubt, Baltimore is a safer city now than it was President Trump's first term. I think what has happened is that Baltimore has become a punching bag that is wrong. We are working to be a safer city, and we've moved great distance. I think it's disrespectful to say that to the police department, who are out there working hard, patrolling each and every single day, and also the men and women of Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office and law enforcement in general. We work with our federal partners. What's that saying about the federal partners? Are they not getting the job done as well? Together, collaboratively, we're working. It takes time to change things, but we're a lot better than where we've been, and we continue to move in the right direction.
Well, you've been Baltimore City State's Attorney since January 3rd, 2023. You're credited by many with a significant decline in violent crime in Baltimore. Do you feel you deserve the credit? You and your
Well,
office?
I look at it like this. Without a doubt, the number one thing that the reason that crime is down is partnership. Partnership. We don't make the arrest, mean the prosecutors don't. However, we prosecute the individuals. I'm just going to give you a couple numbers and statistics so you kind of understand where we're coming from. The
Okay.
2 years before I ever came into office, with this current mayor and the previous state's attorney, the police made around 2,200 gun arrests on repeat violent offenders. Now, I remember, Richard, when I came in, I said that we were going to focus on the repeat violent offender to lower violent crime. And so, what happened to those 2,200 cases that the previous administration handled? Well, about a third of them, the state's attorney's office in 21 and 22 dismissed. They just dropped them on these repeat violent offenders. Then they gave almost a third of them pleas, which means they had probation and went home. And then they incarcerated almost around a third of these individuals. So a third of these individuals went to prison. And were they working with the federal partners? Then they gave about 98 cases in that 2 year time period to the U.S. attorneys and the federal partners. What about homicide convictions? Were they convicting the murderers? They convicted 159 murderers in that 2 year time period. All total, in that 2 year time period, the previous administration took 1,038 violent repeat offenders off the street. Why is that number important? Research has shown that there are about 5 to 6,000 violent repeat offenders in Baltimore City. These are the people who are driving crime. These are the people who would be the victims of and the murders and things like that. Those are the people that my office decided to focus on. So in my first 2 years, the police made about 2,400 arrests on these repeat violent offenders with illegal handguns. We dismissed about 475 cases, almost half of what the previous administration did. Then what about pleas? We only gave pleas to 245 individuals. So, for instance, you could be a repeat violent offender. Say your conviction was from the 80s or 90s. There was a gun, it was in your house, it was in your safe. The police execute a search and seizure warrant and say it's your son or your grandchild's they're looking for. They find a search and see, they find a gun in your safe. That's not a person we're looking to send to prison. That's a person that's changed their life and just has a record and aren't allowed to have a gun. So those are types of individuals we would give the pleas to. But what about the individuals who are running around causing the problems, having the guns in their car? We sent 1,723 of those repeat violent offenders to prison for 5 years without the possibility of parole because they were the ones causing the violence. How many cases did the feds take? They took 135 cases, up significantly, almost 40 cases more than those previous 2 years. Where we really changed the narrative was homicide convictions. The previous administration in 2 years had 159. My office had 271 homicide convictions. So these are murderers taken off the street for significant amounts of time. What about total numbers? We sent 2,129 individuals for prison who are out of that group of the 5 to 6,000 repeat violent offenders. So what we've clearly shown is this. If you remove the repeat violent offender from the community, then crime will go down. And that's been shown through research. It's one of those things we know, we see. If they're not on the street to shoot, rob, and kill, then the numbers will go down. Are we the only reason? No. Have we played a significant role in this process? I believe so, and I believe the data also says that. At the end of the day, the men and women in the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office, they're going to court, they're fighting. We rebuilt the office from 140 prosecutors to 200. We're now training them. So they're going to court. They're getting the results that the citizens deserve.
That is excellent. And do you feel, before we take a break, that this is your greatest or one of your greatest accomplishments in getting these guys off the streets, getting these guns out of their vehicles? We've read about 14, 15, 16-year-olds who have carjacked people early in the morning. They go into neighborhoods.
Yeah.
I mean, it is scary. I'm going to read a letter a little later from one
Okay.
of our viewers about this. But what is, in your opinion, before we break, your greatest accomplishment so far?
Well, I usually look at that when you finish the job, just trying to understand. But I would have to say, I think the thing that I've been best at is the people who've come back, the people who are in the office, and the people, my executive team that implements the plan. Working with great people, it's allowed us to do a lot of really great things. And so I think the greatest thing I've been able to do is just find good people who want to be here, who are really motivated to do the work. And they're the ones who are really doing the work. I'm not in court trying the cases, but just finding and working with a phenomenal team, that I think has been the greatest thing that I've been able to do.
And the greatest thing I've been able to do, Ivan Bates, Baltimore City State's attorney, is hire Howard Mallison as the voice, the unbelievable award-winning voice of Square Off. Howard, my gosh, you look handsome today. Take it away.
Flattery will get you everywhere, Richard. You know, Dr. Kelly Gagan is a well respected board certified podiatrist and heel specialist. Foot problems can happen at any age. Take it from Richard and me. And Dr. Gagan knows that the appearance of your feet matter just as much as correcting any problem. So if you're experiencing anything like nails that you're afraid to wear open-toed shoes in, you may be a candidate for laser treatments that can solve this issue. They're safe, painless, and go right to the cause. And you can believe me, because like I said, Richard and I are both satisfied customers. So
Oh, yeah.
give Dr. Gagan's a call at 410-753-4422 and set up an appointment. Baltimore is a great diner town, and Double T Diners year after year after year voted #1 in reader polls. TT stands for totally terrific. For breakfast, lunch, or dinner, you can't beat the enormous menu selections that will bring you back again and again. There's Double T locations on Route 40 West, Perry Hall, White Marsh, Bel Air, Laurel, Annapolis, Pasadena, and the EC Diner in Ellicott City. Plus, drive by the docks in Middle River for their Monday night lobster special. All part of the Double T family. Tell me you heard about it on Square Off. Back to you, Richard.
Did anybody want to see my feet? Howard, Kelly Gagan. I
I
mean,
don't think so.
forget it. That's all right. I'm wearing hose today. Listen, we're continuing our exclusive interview with this handsome guy, state's attorney Ivan Bates. You and the mayor, during the course of this reduction in violent crime, you and Mayor Scott have both taken some of the credit for the reduction of violent crimes in Baltimore. But a few months ago, or you and the mayor were not seeing eye to eye. How is your relationship with him right now?
We both have jobs to do, and so I focus on the job that the residents and the citizens have elected me to do, and that's my main focus.
That's it?
That's it.
How are you getting? Let me ask you this. How are you and the mayor getting along these days? Do you talk with each other? Do you talk things over? Or,
No, we don't. The mayor does his job, I do my job.
oh boy, you don't want to talk about this. All right, no problem. No problem.
I mean, look, I'm an elected official. The mayor is an elected official. He does his job. My job is public safety. I stay in my lane. And that's just where we are. We have very little contact with each other. You know, I think I'll let the mayor explain why.
All right, let me ask you. Mayor Scott, let me ask you a question. Why? He's not here. He's really not here. All right. Both of you are interested and concerned about rising juvenile crimes. These are these teenagers with guns. I don't know where the heck they get the guns. Carjackings. I mean, there was a period back there a few months ago when early in the morning, as many as 8 kids would encircle someone getting ready to go to work early in the morning, maybe hit them, maybe attack them, and they steal their vehicles and go away. What changes specifically have you made regarding juvenile crimes?
Well, the change in juvenile crime is extremely difficult. See, it used to be prior to, I believe, 2022, or that when a juvenile was arrested, was that they would come, we'd find out what the charges were, and we'd bring them to court, and we would deal with them. However, when the General Assembly changed the law, DJS, they're the gatekeepers. They're the ones who decide what to do with juveniles. So now when a juvenile is arrested, DJS makes the decision what to do. And by the time we get the case, they've already decided whether to release the juvenile, to try to hold the juvenile on electronic monitoring. And so it's been a little more difficult in how to have any control over that. Now, we do have a couple changes in the law that took place last year. And so we've seen some changes. I would say the best thing that's happened to us, I think, is Secretary Tolentino, the new secretary that the governor just recently appointed. She seems to be more in line with trying to hold the young people accountable at the very beginning. I know she's put in a new policy that if a young person's on electronic home detention and that they go home and then they commit a new offense, that that young person will automatically be held pending the dis or trial or of their case of which they're already on electronic home detention. So things like that help. What we do a lot of time also, the mayor has a program called Sidestep, where when the police make an arrest, now the mayor has decided to divert these young people without telling us. And so it's been a little difficult
What
trying.
do you mean, Ivan? Excuse me for interrupting. Explain what you mean by that. That the mayor, what did you say?
So the mayor has a program called Sidestep. And so it's a partnership with BPD, of which, my office knows we're not involved in it at all. And so if the police make an arrest and say they find a kid who's broken two or three windows and they arrest him, and this young person may not have any record, instead of sending them to DJS or to us, the mayor will divert this young person. And it's been a pilot program that was in Western District, and they will divert this young person for services. And we don't know anything about it. We don't know what's going on with that. We don't know what's happening with that. So, in terms of juvenile crime, it's been very frustrating because we don't know what's going on. One of the things that I like to focus on is that, anytime a person is arrested or something happens in terms of a criminal element, criminal issue in Baltimore City, I'm a big believer that the state's attorney's office should be involved from the very beginning. I do not necessarily like it that every kid goes through DJS first because I think that's wrong. I think DJS, the state's attorney, the public defender, and this young person who's violated the law should all go before a court, before the judge, and that a judge who's elected by the voters in the general area here would be Baltimore City, that the judge makes the determination of what to do with this young person, because I think there's a system of accountability.
Well, you seem to be saying that it would probably work more smoothly if you and the mayor were working together rather than not working together. Have you made any attempts to get involved with the mayor's office?
We've made numerous attempts. I've asked them who are the young people. They sent us a letter telling us that we did not need to know and could not know who the young people were, so I could tell the court what had happened. I've sat down with the mayor and asked the mayor, could he give me the information? Who are the young people that were involved in the sidestep program?
What
I
did he
haven't
say?
heard. He said, "Oh, I'll reach out and talk to my team." He hasn't given me any of the information. So it's been very frustrating. The sidestep program, we don't know who these kids are. Let me tell you the way we found out about this program, Richard. We had a victim reach out to our office who had their car stolen. And when we found out, we prepared to try the case. We reached out to the victim wanted to proceed, the car was stolen by this young person. We then get an email from, I guess, someone from Monzi that says, hey, Joe Blow, I'm not going to say the young person's name, they now are in the sidestep program, so you can't proceed against them. We'd never heard about sidestep. So we figure out what's going on. Once we figure out what's going on, we realize, wait. One or two of our people had just gone to a meeting, but they didn't know what was happening with this program, that it was active. And so they wanted us to dismiss the case. From there, we were like, no, we're going to proceed. I don't know anything about your agreement, but I don't know who these young people are. And this is my job to figure this out. Could you please give us the names of the 55 young people who've been in the sidestep program? So God forbid if they come back before the court, we can tell the court they've already had the opportunity and benefit of these resources, and maybe these resources didn't work. Maybe they need these other resources. They refuse to give us the information. They refuse to give us anything in reference to
Why do
size.
you think that is so? Because it gives them a leg up. I mean, what is the reason that the mayor of the city, in your opinion, keeps information that could be vital to you as these kids progress through the system?
I don't know. I believe their response from the lawyers was that, hey, under the statute, the mayor is not allowed to give this information out. Now, that to me was preposterous. The mayor is the executive branch, we're the judicial branch. The mayor's office is wading into the works of the judicial side. And the Constitution says that my office prosecutes these cases. And so I really don't have a clue as to what's going on with that. I've asked for this information time and time again. I get no response whatsoever from the mayor's office. Like I said, I went to see the mayor purposefully and asked him. I went to his office and had lunch and asked him for this information. He says, okay, let me look into it. I still have yet to hear back from the mayor.
Would you ever consider appearing on Square Off just with you and the mayor?
I would. I have no problems with that. I
Okay,
would love that actually.
moving on. That's very disconcerting what you said. You believe that parents of violent juvenile offenders should in some way be held accountable. What does that mean? And how can you get the parents involved if they don't even know what certain kids are doing?
Well, exactly. Well, to me, if you have a young person that's on electronic home detention and they've been released to the care and custody of their parents, once they're released to the care and custody of their parent, the parent is saying that they are responsible for their young person. However, if this young person cuts off their ankle bracelet and the parent is home and this young person leaves and absconds, the parent, I feel, has a duty and obligation to tell DJS, hey, my son, my daughter just cut off their ankle bracelet. And then God forbid, let's say then the child after it's cut off goes into the community, robs somebody, steals a car, wrecks it into someone or causes some violence, then and if the parent told DJS, then DJS can tell the police to look out for the young person. But the parent doesn't say anything, and this young person's been running in the streets of the community doing whatever they want, then why should the parent not be held accountable? Because they did have a duty, I think, of due diligence to inform DJS that their child had cut off their ankle bracelet and left, because DJS gave that child back to the parent for the parent to make sure that they supervised them properly.
Boy, it is tough. It's difficult. And I wonder, I know our audience wonders, where are these kids getting these guns? What's a 15-year-old doing pulling a gun at a carjacking? I mean, where are these guns coming from, Ivan?
Well, look, I think some of them, the young people, are influenced by gangs. That's why, one of the bills that they're talking about in the legislature is going to come specifically from Senator Will Smith that wants to do a bill for what's called direct file, where they want every single case to start in the juvenile system. Almost doesn't matter what the juvenile is charged with. And that is going to be horrific because what you'll begin to see is adult gangs and adult crews who will give more guns to young people, and giving these guns to young people, then they now will say, hey, nothing's going to happen to you. You're only going to have your case start out in the juvenile system. And then I'm worried about that type of violence with young people. Young people, by and large, they're really some phenomenal, they're doing great things, but you have a small segment of the young people who are doing the negative actions. And based on that small segment, those are the individuals. How do we get our help? How do we get them help? How do we make sure we keep them away from the older young people who will prey on these young people to manipulate them to do the violent crimes and acts?
All
That's
right.
why, I'm really concerned as well.
We will continue with our exclusive interview with Baltimore City State's Attorney after we hear more from Howard.
Thank you, Richard. The law firm of Barry Glazer specializes in personal injury, medical malpractice, and nursing home neglect. His creative TV commercials have made him very recognizable because Barry tells it like it is. Check out his words of wisdom on Facebook. You're going to be pleasantly surprised. Barry and his team have an in-house doctor and nurse on staff. So you call Barry before you call the insurance company, because Barry gets you the compensation you deserve. He's that good. Give the law firm of Barry Glazer a call at 410-547-8568 and let them know you heard about them on Square Off. And with so many cars on the road and distracted drivers everywhere, auto accidents are going to happen. And if you've experienced an accident, the insurance companies cannot tell you where to take your car. That's why more and more drivers are trusting their auto repairs and maintenance to leading edge auto body and mechanical repair. They work on all makes and models and offer free pickup and delivery anywhere in the Baltimore area. So call them at 410-443-6433 or visit them at 5807 Falls Road in the heart of Mount Washington. They make your car look and run like new again. Back to you, Rich.
Harold, Jeff Siegel at Leading Edge is fabulous. He takes care of my car and takes care of Annabelle's car. In fact, my limousine, Ivan, runs very, very smoothly now. All right. Ivan Bates is our guest on Squirrel today. What do you say to critics of your new policy who says prosecution of low-level offenses and quality of life crimes can disproportionately impact poorer communities or communities of color?
One of the things I think people have to really understand what I'm saying. The law is on the books. The General Assembly, they make the law. My job is to enforce the law. If people have problem with the law, then petition the General Assembly to make trespassing, drug possession, make it legal then. But as long as the law is on the books, I was elected to enforce the law. That's how I view this job. Now let's talk about how we enforce it. There's one way of a person trespass, the police arrest them. What I've never said that we need to arrest individuals who trespass. What I have said is that to deal with quality of life crimes, we need to change the attitude in which we handle this. My predecessor said we're not going to do anything, so we're going to walk past these issues. I said let's do a citation docket. What does that look like? The police see an individual loitering and say they have drug possession, say they have 3 pieces of crack cocaine, and they're laced with fentanyl, and that person doesn't know it. The police see them purchase. They then may arrest the dealer. They then stop and have the person who purchased the drugs. They seize the drugs. They then give that person a citation. That person who purchased the drugs isn't arrested. That doesn't take an officer off the street. They then come to court. When they come to court, first time offense, we give them 5 hours of community service to clean up the community. But we also say, look, it's clear there's a drug issue going on. Here's an opportunity to go to inpatient or outpatient treatment. So we give them the wraparound services that so often that they need. We have an opioid problem. We're offering them these wraparound services. However, we're not walking past the problem. The issue I have is this to those critics. These problems are happening in Black and brown communities. And shouldn't members who are Black and brown, should they not also be allowed to live in their communities where they don't have people selling drugs all in the corner, having individuals using drugs on their stoop, having individuals loiter, trespass, having individuals rob and steal in their community, or because they're Black and brown, they don't have that right? My problem is this. I don't look in crime in terms of Black and brown. I understand it because I'm a Black man. But what I do look at is the victims. Crime is impacting the victims. If we do not do something with quality of life crimes, more people are leaving our city. Every time I go to the community, we did a community event down in Locust Point the other night. And the issue people were concerned about was quality of life. I had one person say, look, I would love to sell my house. They're outside using the drugs. They're getting high on my step. I have to walk over them. Nobody will purchase my house. I am stuck. And the problem that we have is clear. We have to hold people accountable because at the end of the day, everybody deserves a quality of life that is fair. If you're working your whole life, you've retired, you
Yeah.
live in this neighborhood, do you not also deserve the right to be safe and secure in your house?
Okay. We're going to sort of end. I'm going to read a letter that was sent to the Baltimore Sun from a woman named Nancy in Gwinnett. Quote, almost daily, there are news stories and videos of people being robbed or beaten in Baltimore, shot and killed, or simply being harassed. Why would a non-resident, especially someone older and more vulnerable, want to take that risk? I used to love going to downtown Baltimore, to concerts, restaurants, or just visiting the Inner Harbor, but no more. I know that the stats show a decrease in murders, but violence, especially by young people who have a criminal history and should not even be on the streets, is a fact. Perhaps now that there is a change at the top that you mentioned, Ian, at juvenile justice, things will change for the better, and then people can feel free to enjoy all of the great things that the city offers. We'll see. Your reaction to her letter.
I hear it time and time again. That's the reaction that I get from the citizens and residents of Baltimore City when I go out. You know, yes, we're doing a great job on the violent crime, but we need to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time and focus on the quality of life. Quality of life will allow individuals who are returning home to have jobs because we'll have more businesses. When the people come back to Baltimore, you'll have businesses, you'll have entrepreneurs open businesses, you'll have companies invest in Baltimore in a way because they know individuals are safe and they want to be in Baltimore City. And that's, to me, if you want to ask me what is the thing I'm most disappointed about thus far, is that we haven't done more with quality of life. Because at the end of the day, we have the residents who are paying extraordinary amount of taxes and they're not getting what they paid for. They deserve to live in a safe environment, and we need to do that as elected officials. We need to be the ones leading the charge to have a safer Baltimore.
Final minute talking about elected officials. I heard some talk the other day. People were talking about Ivan Bates running for a different office. Would you have any interest in running out of your office to be mayor of the city or a governor or in the legislature or Congress? Any thoughts of that? Or are you focused?
I'm focused on my job. One of the things that, I have a 9-year-old little girl, and we have a 9-year-old child, you have the routines, and this job has been absolutely amazing. I love this job. I love the people I work with, but I will tell you, Ivan Bates will be running for reelection. That's the one thing I can definitely tell you. I feel that there are still some things that I need to accomplish before I could ever think about anything like that. But remember, my daughter and my family come first about any decision. But right now, I'm totally focused and in love with being the state's attorney for Baltimore City.
I will end by saying, I guess you're not interested in being the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. All
Oh,
right.
no, 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 no.
Hey, we really enjoyed having you. We'll have you back, of course, periodically. You're great to talk to. We appreciate your candor. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you. If you have a letter or a comment about the show, you can email us at watchsquareoff@hotmail.com. Watchsquareoff@hotmail.com. And I might read your letter next week when once again we square off. Ivan Bates, thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Great to see you.
Great to see you too. See you next time, everybody.